Okay, welcome. You're in the battleground, and man, what a weekend's in store for us, for all the way from the Tar Heel State to North Carolina to Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Wow, that is on fire. We just had in the last hour Doug Mastriano called in. The Colonel Mastriano called in for he's about to step into an event. We may have a couple other surprise call-ins during this hour because the Senate race is a dead heat. At least all the public numbers are out there. It looks like a dead heat, and it's white hot in the governor's race. You got guys dropping like flies and endorsing Lou Barletta, a good buddy of ours, Lou Barletta, and trying to, I guess, stand up and close the gap. Doug Mastriano looks like familiar with the polling, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 points up. There's all kind of rumors about endorsements. We're going to get to all that. I want to start, though, with Royce White out in Minnesota. Just got good news on the from Mike Lindell. He's out there as a floor manager for Doug Wardlow out there at the convention. Royce, get us up to date. You got a big town hall next Saturday. Get us up to date on your campaign because your race is really global in nature. You know, you had Omar over in Kashmir, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, trying to start a third world war on us. The two hot zones in the world are not Ukraine. The two hot spots in the world are the northwest India up there in Kashmir and the South China Sea. So, Royce White, get us up to date on what's happening on your campaign.
Well, I'm in an open warfare here with the Republican establishment, with the Uniparty. And, you know, the establishment here in Minnesota, the establishment Republicans seem to think that to talk about God or globalism, abortion, the church of LGBTQ, the national debt are all red meat talking points for Trumpers. And they regard those things as not viable strategies to win in blue strongholds. I reject the notion completely. If we're going to become Democrats to win these elections, then we don't really win.
Royce, what do they want you to do? I mean, you got MAGA and you got Ultra MAGA. Royce White comes at it hard. I mean, he's part of this. We just had Jake Beckett on the last hour. He calls it the new right. And he talks about the J.D. Vances, the Eric Greitens, the Blake Masters, himself. Katie Britt was on here today throwing down hard. And everybody says Katie Britt's controlled by Shelby and McConnell. Well, hey, everybody should go to her site and send in questions. Next time they're at a event, they ought to question her. But she came out and wrote really an incredible op-ed for our site, for the War Room site, that said, hey, she's a hard no. I mean, a hard no on this Ukraine situation. And she said, hey, I'm tired of putting America last. So you just went through some issues I would think have to be solved and have to be rectified, and other ones that have to be embraced, right, like our traditional values, etc. I mean, Roy, what do they want you to campaign on? Are you an occupied? Are you a controlled opposition? Is that what they want? Do they actually think that's going to beat Omar's, be Democrat light and be nice and polite and kind of a Democratic light?
I don't know if they believe that or not. I mean, my read of the situation is that the controlled opposition and the Republican establishment are okay with losing while they pretend to be Democrats. So you lose twice. Not only do you lose the elections, because no real Democrat is going to vote for a Republican that is Democrat light. Is not going to happen. But then you lose twice when you actually abandon or betray the real conservative base. So, I'm just not going to go for it. It's absurd to me. It's completely absurd.
Here's what, and I'm going to get Boris in here in a few minutes, but I've heard this, that there's been some really well-intentioned people run against her, but the party out there, and particularly even the National Party, they're just not interested in taking on Omar, and they're certainly not interested in beating her. Is that the sense you get?
I think the entire Republican establishment has become the controlled opposition. And I think the Ukraine situation shows us that completely. I mean, look, I said it before and I'll say it again. When your government's stealing, everybody's stealing. Okay? This last $40 billion spending bill, you got $190 billion going to the CIA. You give a feckless president who's fallen asleep at the wheel $5 billion to use at his own discretion. This is the Uniparty at work. And this is the war machine turning on.
Dr. Peter Navarro was in the last segment, and he said the diesel fuel situation, but particularly the baby formula, hits the working class the most. I mean, it's a horrible situation for working class African Americans and Hispanics. Wait, what is it like up in Minneapolis? Yes, sir.
Wait a second. We don't need to talk about the baby formula. These people don't care about babies. I mean, let's get real clear on the issue. The Democrats have waged a 160-year war on the sanctity of life. In the 1800s, it was to categorize black people as subhuman arbitrarily in the interest of an international slave trade, which is globalism, by the way, all the way until now, where they try and claim that a human fetus is not a living human being. Okay, and they make this claim in between that there was a party switch, but you and I and many of the American First candidates in base know that LBJ was a racist. First of all, so he was a Democrat that they try and use as a civil rights symbol. And Nixon and Kissinger were uniparty globalists. They weren't really conservative. They were Democrats too. So when did this party switch happen? It didn't happen. It's a lie. And the war on the sanctity of life is still on. They don't care if the baby formula goes by the wayside because they're anti-human. That's the reality.
One before I let you go about the town hall, I want to just make sure you're a hard no. You're a hard no in the $40 billion, right? You're just saying, hey, absolutely no way do we send a penny over there.
Hard no. You don't send $40 billion to the most corrupt country in the world. It's a black bag full of money for a military industrial complex. It's disgusting.
What does it strike you? You'd be entering a Congress. There were 57, and we had Kat Kamak. We had some of the heroes that voted no. But you'd be entering a Congress that 57 guys voted, men and women voted no for this. But the overwhelming majority of the conference, Republican conference, voted yes with no due diligence. It took Rand Paul to say, hey, I just need one line in there to put the inspector general. Right? $56 billion. Remember, the $40 billion, Royce, is just to get you to the September 30th, the end of the fiscal year. That's just for this year. What does it tell you about the conference? It was 57. Royce White would make you 58, but it's only 57. Only 57 of fellow hammers there.
If you go back to the very first time I was on with you, Steve, here in the War Room, and I appreciate the War Room posse, the whole MAGA movement, and the America First citizens out there, I said that we are living in a crisis of leadership. We're standing on an active volcano, a crisis of leadership, a crisis of logic. We have to restore our national honor and sacred honor. We have to restore our sacred honor. These people have no sacred honor. But you know what we live in, Steve? We live in a time where people would rather their politicians lie to them than use profanity in public. I'm a whole new breed of politician. So, you know, I would be happy and honored to be a minority to stand against this Ukraine bill.
Royce, how do people find out more about the town hall you're going to have next Saturday? How do they find out more about you as a person and your campaign? RoyceWhite.us, that's our campaign website. Please go follow Free People of America, Free People of USA. They will be putting on the town hall because the Republican establishment doesn't want us to talk about God, abortion, the church of LGBTQ, globalism, the national debt. So a few of my American First comrades here in the Twin Cities decided that we would help facilitate these conversations for the community to hear the truth. Royce White, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here. Godspeed, brother. Let's go now. Let's go to Fight On. Let's go to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Jim Bognet been endorsed by President Trump. He's running for Congress out in the Commonwealth. Jim, one of the most intense weekends of your life is coming up. Tell us what's going on.
Well, we got 4 days left, Steve, until the primary day. President Trump came out 10 days ago and endorsed me. We've seen an amazing response to that. I spoke at his rally last Friday. I was honored to be there with J.D. Vance and other America First patriots. We are going to win this seat. I'm running up against a Democrat who's now claiming to be a Republican who's dropped $800,000 of his own money. It was bad enough when the Democrats stole the 2020 election in the general. Now they're trying to steal primaries by impersonating Republicans. But we're winning. We're going to build a wall. We're going to make China pay, and we're going to shock the world here on Tuesday. What are the big – look, the whole world – we thought Ohio was crazy. I'm going to get to Boris in a second. We thought Ohio was crazy. I have never seen anything like what's happened in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I mean, it is not just on fire. It's gotten a tad personal, too, both in the Senate race and a little bit in the governor's race. Jim, give us perspective. What's on the mind of the voters out there? The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's got some of the best patriots in this country, and it's one of the great homes of MAGA. So when you talk to the voters themselves, what's on their mind? Well, there's intense anger. Number one, on illegal immigration. I live in Hazelland, Pennsylvania. Hazelland's been devastated as a city because of illegal immigration. We want the border wall. We want stopping of these ghost flights into Wilkes-Barre Scranton Airport filled with illegal immigrants. We know the price of illegal immigration, how it destroys a town, a whole community. So we want that to stop. Number two, there's intense anger about what happened in the 2020 election. Act 77, the no excuse mail-in ballots, which were ripe for fraud, were used to rig the election. We're fighting against that. We have a horrible, horrible Democratic governor who shut down this state and destroyed businesses. So we're very angry about how we were denied liberty and how people have become poor and destitute because of those lockdowns and the crazy COVID policies that Tom Wolf put in place and Rachel Levine. So those are some of the things that are on people's mind. And there's an intense anger at China for what they did to our country. My whole theme is make China pay, not just for their military and their espionage against America, but for what they did to us with COVID. So those are some of the things on the mind of primary voters up here.
Where does this? Where would you, if you were in the House today on this $40 billion bailout of the Ukrainian oligarchs, where would you stand on that, sir?
Heck no. I start from the premise of if Nancy Pelosi brings a bill to the floor, it's almost impossible for me to vote for. She's not a patriot. She's somebody who's done immense damage to this country in her 35 years of corrupt office holding. So I would be a heck no on that. $40 billion. We've already spent $5 trillion of deficit spending under Joe Biden. And now they want to spend another $40 billion. You know, Steve, they throw billions of dollars around like it's pocket change. And you know who pays for it? The American people, the working class, who have to deal with the inflation that's resulted from it. So the only way to stop the inflation wave that is wrecking the working class is to stop spending money like it's water.
You know, Meet the Press Daily was out in your neck of the woods this week, and they did a live report from there with Chuck Todd. One of the things you could tell they were very concerned about, because obviously had a lot of Democratic consultants on there, they were very concerned about independents and working class Democrats, that MAGA and Trump, but the Trump policies, even when he's not on the ticket, the policies resonate with them. Is that what you're seeing out there among working class independents and moderate Democrats?
100%. I mean, I'm running in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's Joe Biden's quote-unquote hometown, even though he left in the 1950s. We are working class. My grandfather was a coal miner. My family's in construction. People here want to go back to the Trump policy when we had $2 a gallon gasoline, when we had a 4% unemployment rate, when you could be proud of where you lived and you felt like somebody was fighting for you. Now we have Joe Biden, who feels like he's alone, wandering around in a room, doesn't know where he is. You know, last week, Steve, I said at President Trump's rally that these tears, or the rain was tears from God, that Joe Biden's in the White House. And I said that Joe Biden belongs in a nursing home and Kamala Harris belongs in a nut house. And it really feels like this country is being run by a bunch of nuts. And that's how we get a shooting war in Europe for the first time in 77 years. And that's how we get this inflation out of control. So I feel like the working class and even Democrats in Scranton, Pennsylvania, are saying we were sold a bill of goods by Joe Biden. He's not a moderate. He's governing like he's a member of the squad. He's governing like a doctrinaire limousine liberal. And my opponent, Matt Cartwright, same thing. Worth $20 million, flies a private jet. Bob Casey, he's been pretending that he was pro-life for years. Came out this week, pro-choice. Cartwright, been pretending he's pro-life for years. He's pro-choice. It's unbelievable the fraud that these people pull on the American people.
As you go into a weekend in early to mid-May in Northeast Pennsylvania, which we've said in the 2020 is the center of the kind of the ground zero for politics in this nation, what's the status of diesel fuel and baby's formula, sir?
Diesel fuel prices are out of control. A lot of our trucks in construction are diesel. I mean, we're sometimes seeing prices in the $6, $7 range here. We've never seen anything like it. We hear constant complaints when we go out. You can check out some of our videos on bognetforcongress.com. We go out and we talk to mothers in supermarkets. They can't find, basic food stuff. They can't find baby formula. And then to drive to the store, because a lot of people here live in rural areas. It takes 20 miles to get to a store sometimes. It is killing the working class here in northern Pennsylvania. And Steve, you said Pennsylvania's on fire. That's one of the reasons it's on fire. There's intense anger about what's been done to the working class in Northeast Pennsylvania. Go to Bognet for Congress. You can check out our videos talking to people on the street.
How do people follow you on social media? How do they find out more about you and the campaign, and particularly where you're going to be? Because I know people in the war room want to come up. They want to meet people. They want to answer. They want to do their own due diligence, which we love. We want everybody. We tell them no whining afterwards. Get all your questions out there. So where can people get you, and where's the campaign going to be?
Twitter, Bognet, the number 4 Congress. Facebook, Bognet, the number 4 Congress. Our website, Bognet, FOR Congress. We have our schedule. Tomorrow we're going to be in Pike County, talk about patriots, people who believe in God and guns, at a barbecue at 2 p.m. Pike County, that's our big event. And then we'll be in Luzerne County on Monday, Wilkes-Barre, the heart of Trump country up here in Pennsylvania. Luzerne County has gone from being a county that voted Democrat 12 years ago. We voted for President Trump the last 2 times. We're going to vote for America First policies again. Bognet for Congress. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Jim Bognet, thank you very much. Congratulations on the endorsement of President Trump.
Thank you.
I want to bring in Boris. Boris, I want to stick right there with Luzerne. That's actually where Chuck Todd and his group was, and you could tell they were nervous, and they had some local officials there saying, "Hey, the policies of Donald Trump are very positive, powerful, and resonate with people." That is MAGA and ultra MAGA country. You agree?
No doubt about it. Pennsylvania's ultra MAGA, Georgia's ultra MAGA, Arizona's ultra MAGA. We're going to have Blake Masters here up in a little bit. And hey, a lot of Minnesota, where Royce White was just at, and Doug Wardlow is running for AG, is ultra MAGA. Because the country, we've talked about this, always signal not noise for this audience, right? The country has moved this way. That's where the country is. The country is becoming more and more MAGA under the leadership of President Trump. And why? Because they're seeing a contrast where we had for 4 years strength of the border, strength on trade, strength internationally, strength on manufacturing, strength for the working class, strength in the supply chains. And now we have feckless weakness literally on everything. Literally on everything. There's no wins for America. It's just loss, 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 and rats are abandoning the ship. Today, Jen Psaki's last day should be missed by absolutely nobody.
Let's talk about Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've got any polling up. I don't want to talk. We know we had Doug Mastriano came on the show earlier. There's all kind of rumors out there. Yeah, Jay Corbin punched out. One of the women punched out today. They're all saying, "Hey, we're standing with Lou Barletta. Please, although we're on the ballot and there's been some early voting, go vote for Lou Barletta." There's obviously some sort of movement there to try to rally around Lou to see if they can close the gap and make it more competitive. What's your sense of Doug? And remember, Doug Mastriano with Kathy Barnett, they're kind of the people that were there for the 3 November movement. I mean, he's really based his entire campaign. I tell people when they ask me, I said, I didn't see so much of a campaign as a series of voter integrity conferences, voter integrity summits. Remember, we went up there and spoke at Gettysburg to the Adams County, where Doug was, the Adams County. I think it was we had the Eisenhower dinner. We were honored to be invited. But everything there was voter integrity. 3 November. We got to decertify these electors. Walk us through how you see this governor's race in this weekend when they're out nonstop, banging on doors and doing events to get people out to vote.
Mastriano looks like he's in strong shape, and he looks like he's pulling away. That's what the polling has been showing now. There's no polling in the last 24, 48 hours, but the polling has shown Mastriano up by at least 10 points on Lou Barletta now. There's a little bit of a coalescing against Lou Barletta. There is. But here's what I will say. The Mastriano issue is very, very interesting. You've got a lot of the base who are fully with Doug Mastriano. And, hey, I love the heat of the base. And there's no doubt about it. And then you have folks say, well, Mastriano, no way he wins the general against Shapiro. I disagree with that notion. I actually, in general, this whole perception of, well, this so-and-so is going to do bad in the general. Usually, that's an attack they use against a strong MAGA candidate. That's what they used against President Trump in 2016, and frankly, that's what they used against. That's what they're using against Eric Greitens, especially when you talk about candidates who've been around and who are rather vetted and you know who they are. Kathy Barnett is a different question. President Trump has came out yesterday with a statement. Actually, did praise Kathy, but also alluded to the fact that the vetting has been short at if that. So again. You've got to win a primary before you win the general, right? And it appears that on the governor's side, Mastriano is pulling away, and there's no magic sort of dust to winning the base over, right? There is one endorsement that matters more than anyone else's in the history of American politics. That's President Donald J. Trump's. And he has not endorsed in the governor's race as of now. And it does appear that, with an endorsement not being in place, you've got Mastriano pulling away. Now, on the Senate side, there's a
hang on. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that endorsement because, both Mastriano and Barnett. I think one of the hits on them for guys that are professionals or people is that they haven't raised any money. I mean, these are shoestring operations. Particularly Kathy Barnett. I think put $135,000 up on TV, but they have a grassroots. I think they even have a modicum of a get out the vote, which I'm not sure the other campaigns have.
Well, the grassroots is get out the vote. Yeah, you get people energized, they go vote.
Yes,
it's pretty simple, right?
Well, I mean, also volunteers right. Knocking on doors really get out the vote.
Which is the grassroots, exactly.
In Pennsylvania, I think unique to, and I'm not trying to downplay DeSantis's run or any of these, but look, Josh Shapiro is, I think, pound for pound, going to be the toughest Democratic guy running for a governorship of a big state.
Statewide office.
He's been attorney general. He's totally dialed in. Let's be blunt about it, to the establishment in Pennsylvania, and I mean the Republican establishment. Right, he runs that attorney general's office. He knows how to spread around business. He knows how to build relationships. Josh, so people say Mastriano. My point to them is that is it McSwain? Is it Lou? I mean, give me that's a very tough race. I actually think that Fetterman or Conor Lamb, who I got a lot of respect for, Conor Lamb, but Fetterman, I think they're easier to take on and to beat in a statewide in Pennsylvania than Josh Shapiro. So when people say Mastriano doesn't have a shot, and I say, well, look, of the whole crew, give me your best guess here, because Josh Shapiro is going to be tough.
And the other part too, Steve, is generally in American politics, what's supposed to happen actually ends up happening, right? President Trump was supposed to win in 2016 because that's where the country is. In 2020, he was supposed to win, and he did. It was stolen. And that is disgusting, unacceptable, and we'll continue to fight in the 3 November movement. In Pennsylvania, if Mastriano wins the primary on Tuesday, as he's been leading for a long time, that is because he has been able to tap into the Republican electorate, energize the base, and bring him out. If there's a better candidate, we hear a lot from people in our, reaching out to us on the phones, et cetera. Well, we're so worried, we're so concerned. Well, as Frankfurter said, we have elections in this country, right? So where is the better candidate? I had hopes for Corman because he, after a slow start, we were very hard on Jay Corman, but in the fall and through the winter, Jay Corman has taken real steps to fight 3 November against Josh Shapiro and took him on. But now Corman's endorsed Barletta, and that's over.
And Jake, I think, peaked at 7 or 8%. Look, it was Jay Corman that would come on this show, but he'd also go around to the events. He says, in my 35 years in politics, I've never seen an issue that enervates not just the base, but he says everywhere I go, then what happened in November 2020. And my point was Josh Shapiro and he had this throwdown, and then it just didn't materialize. So that is also going to it's still going to be a big issue in this governor's race. That what happened in November, and look, to sort the whole thing out to make sure you get a free and fair vote is one thing. But to get to the bottom of it, remember, those were probably Corman and those guys leading up to January 6th were the most aggressive of saying, hey, we've really got to get these electors back, these Biden electors, and we got to go through a real certification process. The whole thing, Electoral Count Act, I think they see Jay Corman in these state legislatures and say, hey, we want to take the power out of those guys and put them to the secretaries of state or the governors where we maybe have a better shot to cover them. Before we leave Pennsylvania, I want to get to the Senate race.
One more thing
President Trump's come out and endorse. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Governor's races are usually where you could have also an unexpected candidate, right? Let's not forget Jesse Ventura in Minnesota, Schwarzenegger in California. If you get a candidate to get a lot of name ID and to get the heat from the base, they could very much win. And yes, Josh Shapiro's going to be tough, but I actually think Mastriano, if he were to win on Tuesday, could galvanize to a point, and it's going to be such a big red wave year. Democrats are so depressed. And also remember the Leah Thomas issue, the transvestites in sports, that's in Pennsylvania. I think that this notion that Mastriano could never win in the general is wrong. And again, gubernatorial races are where sometimes you will have a candidate come out of nowhere and take over because people vote in terms of their own backyard, right? And they can vote for somebody that they trust in, like, and are excited about.
I want to ask you this. We're going to take a short break here in a second, but I got to tell you, the law of unintended consequences about an endorsement, a late endorsement for Mastriano, if it would be Mastriano, I think that gives momentum to Kathy Barnett. Look, they've got this kind of joint venture. They've had no money. They have this grassroots thing going. Hang on. I'm going to give you some time to think about your answer. We're going to take a short commercial break. Return with Boris. We're going to talk in North Carolina. We still got to get to the Senate. Pennsylvania is been on fire about this Senate race, even more than the governor's. It's gotten personal. It's gotten a little nasty. And remember, we got to bring everybody together after Tuesday, just like in Ohio. That thing got a little heated, too. But Pennsylvania's at a whole different level. Right now, there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there about the president maybe doing an endorsement. We'll have to check out about that. But Boris and I are going to talk about the impact in the Senate race on an endorsement in the governor's primary race for the Republican. Short commercial break.
That's flavor.
We're going to be back at War and Battleground.
Right now would be a good time to start drinking Warpath coffee. Order today with code WARROOM to get 15% off. The website is www.warpath.coffee. We try to make it simple. That's warpath.coffee. Remember, drink this the way we drink it in the Navy. Black. You know me. I'm skeptical by nature. So when I first heard about home title theft, I was like, is this thing real? Can some cyber criminal really forge my name off the title of my home and take over as if he's the new owner? It turns out, yeah, he can. Real estate crimes and losses are rare, right? Wrong. According to the FBI, this crime is growing faster than credit card fraud, and you're not covered by homeowners insurance or common identity theft programs. Home Title Lock earned my trust. Home Title Lock puts a barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect anyone tampering with your home's title, they mobilize to help shut it down. Now, here's what I urge you to do. Number one, go to HometitleLock.com and read the testimonials from FBI agents and government officials. And number two, register your home address to see if you're already a victim and don't even know it. And when you protect your home, tell them Steve Bannon sent you to get my listener discount. HometitleLock.com, HometitleLock.com. Take action. Please do this today. Ronald Reagan saw it 40 years ago. Massive inflation that we haven't seen since, until today. In Reagan's own words, inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber, and as deadly as a hitman. Right now, your retirement accounts are under attack thanks to the inflationary policies of this administration. If you have not yet called Birch Gold, the only people I trust to help you diversify your 401ks and IRAs into gold, then you are missing the boat. Actually, you're treading water without a life vest. Birch Gold has your life vest. Let them help you convert an IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. And here's one final reason to contact Birch Gold. Right now, when you text Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to the following number, 989898, to request a no-cost, no-obligation info kit, they will send you also a report that I've just written and is exclusively for Birch Gold, The End of the Dollar Empire. This critical report reveals the pressures currently facing the dollar and how you can protect yourself now. You cannot get this report anywhere else, only from Birch Gold. Now, it's yours free when you text following, Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to 989898. So take action, get the Birch Gold info kit, and my exclusive report, The End of the Dollar Empire, right now. Text the word Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, to 989898.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back. We left you hanging about this endorsement. Boris, you've got your theory of the case. I've got mine. Walk me through a potential, because a lot of rumors going around. Nothing's locked in, but a potential endorsement of Colonel Mastriano by President Trump.
Let me be direct. Nothing's locked in, and a lot of rumors out there, but nothing's locked in, and I can tell you that with good confidence. Okay. But having said that, nothing's locked in. But here's a thought and a theory of the case. And, I know a lot of you folks, I love all of you. And even the ones who disagree with me on Twitter, on Truth, on Getter, in your emails, I appreciate the feedback. I get it and I appreciate you, okay, in terms of Oz and the Senate race. I strongly believe that it is vital for us to continue the strength of the movement, and that President Trump has got an unbelievable sense, unbelievable political sense, unbelievable political instincts. He's chosen Oz, and I think it's important for us to get Oz over the finish line. And by the way, that's where the latest even polling, that some of the polling I've seen, not even public yet, does show Oz pulling away. Here's a question, Steve, that I think is interesting to consider. If the president were to come in for Mastriano, okay, and say, okay, I'm coming in endorsing Mastriano, and then there's people in Pennsylvania who are super ultra MAGA, the hottest MAGA, the ultraest of all the ultra MAGAs, okay? They're Desi MAGA, okay? Those people, would they potentially say, well, look, the president is now endorsed Mastriano, who's undoubtedly one of the hottest parts of the base. And then look at it and say, well, let's vote then down the endorsed ticket. Because if the president is endorsing Mastriano, then he's got that confidence that that's where Oz is as well in terms of being MAGA and America first. I'm not saying that's what would happen, but I am saying that's an interesting question to consider as people go to the polls. And would they, quote unquote, vote down the endorsed ticket, if you know what I mean? Not just, okay, let's make a decision here, and, Barnett is kind of with Mastriano, but would they say, wow, the president's now endorsed Mastriano and Oz, let's go for both endorsed candidates. I think that's something that could potentially happen.
Now, here's my theory of the case. And this is what's so extraordinary about Kathy, and this shows you the power of the grassroots. And a lot of people said, look, I love President Trump. I think sometimes he gets bad advice, and they're just not Oz guys. And President Trump's been very specific. He says, look, we got to hold this seat. There's a lot of things we want to do. We're going to take control of the House. We must have control of the Senate. And Oz, and I thought about this, and he says, I thought about it a lot. And Oz is the guy that can take on either Lamb or Fetterman. If you look at it, though, it's been such a grassroots, and they have no cash, no staff, no advertising. You think about it, Boris, I did this calculation. If you take the $12 million of Oz and the $10 million of Dave McCormick, you throw in another, 5 or 6 out of Ambassador Carla Sands. We had her on today. I thought she was really good. And you throw in Jeff Barters, who led this thing for 6 or 8 months. Jeff's put in a 3 or 4 of his own. You're at 30, almost 35 million versus 135. Right. I think this is a law of unintended consequences, since they did that joint venture. And like I said, what people don't realize, most of their big campaign events over the last year has been these voter integrity summits, whether it's in Gettysburg or Adams County, all throughout the state. And you have people, and I think this speaks what the media is missing. Even a vote for Kathy is a massive vote for President Trump. Because she is with Doug. Their whole campaign is the election was stolen. We got to decertify that. It's very tough to go forward until we get to that. Which as you know, that's one of the mantras of the war room. I know it's you.
No doubt.
People don't realize what Boris has done. Boris, what you've done to go throughout the country and fight this every day. I believe the law of unintended consequences here is an endorsement for Doug. Actually boosts. I hear your theory, and I think to a part I do agree with it. But I think overall, it'll jack up that grassroots space. The one thing I've heard about all the other campaigns, because these people have run very sophisticated air games. If you see where the buys were, if you see how the attack ads were set up, these were very sophisticated media campaigns hammering each other, right? The top 4 candidates or those 4 candidates. They didn't really spend a lot of time or money in kind of ground game. There's not a big volunteer base. It doesn't seem like they've spent a tremendous amount of money in really to get out the vote, which is more the traditional, MAGA or ultra MAGA thing. So I think it's up in the air. And I got to tell you, one thing I would say, just like in Ohio, remember, starting Tuesday night, all of us have got to come together. Everybody's got to come together for that assault on either Fetterman or Lamb. And people should understand, Conor Lamb, who looked like a Goliath in the Trump, and when President Trump was in his first term, he beat Parnell in 20, all that. He's getting blown out by Fetterman, at least the polling I've seen. I mean, it's this state, they're really putting up a guy who I think is pretty radical, and I think Fetterman can really be beaten. And so this Senate campaign, this primary is very important. Boris, before we bounce on Pennsylvania, closing thoughts on where we stand with the Senate.
I think it's good. This is one of the most exciting, interesting races of my political career, and I think in a long time in American history. And there's President Trump in his statement yesterday. He did undoubtedly come in very strong for Oz. Talked about the shortcomings of Kathy Barnett, but also he said some nice things about Kathy Barnett in that statement, and that if she were to win, he'd be with her 100%. And I think, Steve, it goes back to what you said. It's vital for MAGA to coalesce and to go and be strong against, on the Senate side, looks like Fetterman, and then Josh Shapiro on the gubernatorial. Again, I'm a strong believer that it is vital for us to continue the power of the MAGA movement. President Trump's made his decision. He's obviously gotten information, and other folks in MAGA are saying that as well. Steak for Breakfast podcast have been on, others that he's gotten the information he needs, and he's gone with Oz, and Oz does appear to be pulling away. The other thing about it, and this all goes back to polling as well, Kathy Barnett peaked this week. I think you could see that being a bit of an early peak for somebody who's trying to come in as a candidate from the outside. But you know what? It's all yet to be seen, yet to be determined. Lots of moves to be made, and it's going to be a close one. But it does appear the Senate is between Oz and Kathy Barnett. And you know what the story there is? That either way, that is all MAGA, baby. It is all MAGA. Just all like MAGA in Ohio. It's all MAGA. Just like MAGA in Indiana, in Texas, in Missouri, and in Arizona. We've got Blake Masters coming up from Arizona, where he's coming up hot. Okay. Blake's coming in hot.
Could you have a situation? This is my fear, where you don't have these runoffs, and I've kind of said I like these runoff situations because it does force a guy to get over 50, which you see in Arkansas and you see in Georgia. My big fear, as you know, in Ohio, you and I spent a lot of time on this. In Ohio, it was theoretical to have a 74 or 75% of the vote and have a guy slip in there. That guy, and although he wasn't super never Trump, he just clearly runs the establishment candidate. In Ohio, you could have the possibility, and this is one thing that does worry me. You could have the possibility where you've got Oz and Kathy Barnett, and quite frankly, Dave McCormick, who was, I think, closer to President Trump early on in his race for whatever reason, took a more moderate establishment run, although he did come out against the $40 billion. He did come out against Mitch McConnell. So even he said there's got to be new blood there. Do you have any fear at all, given the heat in this thing right now, that Oz and Kathy Barnett, because of the intensity of the really hardcore of the Trump vote, you could cancel each other out and actually have Dave McCormick slip in there?
It doesn't. The polling doesn't appear to show that in Ohio. That Dolan could not get that done for himself, and then I think you're seeing Berdovich fall back in Arizona and fade away. So I don't expect that to happen. I think that the turnout is MAGA, and also, frankly, I think there's enough MAGA to go around. That's the beauty of our growing movement, right? And that there's enough MAGA. Look at Ohio again. You had MAGA with 80% of the vote was MAGA, split among 3-4 candidates. J.D. Vance coming out on top at 32. So I think you could easily have a situation here where Oz comes in at 25, Kathy Barnett at about 20, 21, and then you've got McCormick at 17, 18. I think that could very, very easily happen. But again, all that is pretty close to a margin of error. And we're not in the prognosticating business here, right, Steve? We're here to give the posse the picture as we see it. Yeah. And this is what I want the posse to do. It's very incumbent, because a lot of events going around Pennsylvania. In your event, make sure you go question these guys. If you walk up and say, "Hey, I saw," and we know from these campaigns, you walk in and said, "Hey, I saw you on War Room." Right, they're going to get you and let you ask a question and get up there, because they understand the power of this audience and that you're a force multiplier. If you get a question answered and you like it, you're going to tell your neighbor and tell some other people. Steve, I want to say one more 10-second thing. Sure. And this is to the audience. And again, I'll say it. It's important for me personally to say this. Okay, I respect and I love each and every one of you. All right, I give you my perspective. I give you my opinions. Disagree with me as you want. I think. Ultra MAGA doesn't quite cover how MAGA I am. I'm all 1,000% in. My perspective in Pennsylvania is that it's important for us to continue the movement, to continue the strength of the endorsements, because that's going to play itself out as we get into 22 and 24. It's also important for us to make sure that we're not giving an opening to people who are trying to run down the middle, that we're all in on MAGA and Ultra MAGA and Desi MAGA. That's where I'm coming from, and I think that's vital.
I think one thing, too, I think Kathy Barnett shows you the power of this movement, right? The power to catch fire. And
I'm proud of that.
We cannot lose that. Whatever the outcome is, can't lose that. We don't have time to get into it today because I've got to get to North Carolina. I want you to throw some other polling. We've got Blake coming up. Fetterman, because he's got a massive national profile from a guy who's really a small, he was outside a suburb, I think, of Pittsburgh, where he was mayor of Braddock. He's got a huge profile for that. The progressive left has a lot of chips in the sky. I think this guy, of so many candidates, like comparing him to Tim Ryan, I think this guy is actually so beatable, but you're going to have to beat him, right? And I believe here, this is a great example that we have the possibility to put forward a positive message to the African-American community, particularly in places like Philadelphia. Right, we can go to Philadelphia, I think, with a great MAGA message. If you look at the good folks in Philadelphia right now, and Navarre brought this up in the previous hour. If you look at diesel and you look at particularly formula, it's working class African Americans and Hispanics are getting hammered on these shortages and the prices increases. And we don't even know how they're going to continue. I mean, how they continue to survive the crime.
The crime. Look at Philadelphia. Look at because of that corrupt Soros-backed DA they've got, the prosecutor. It's a disaster. Philadelphia is that, we're sending $40 billion to Ukraine. Philadelphia looks like something of a horror movie, okay? So that MAGA leadership is what we need, and I agree with you. I think the liberal woke leadership like Fetterman would give is absolutely in trouble.
Okay, well, look, we got Blake up for a phoner. Let's go to Blake Masters running in Arizona. Blake, yesterday you gave us a great clip on this $40 billion. Since then, Rand Paul stood up and essentially agreeing with you, saying, hey, this is insanity. We got to slow this thing down. We got to look at it. I need at least an inspector general because of the technicality of the parliamentarian. That thing's on hold right now. We also had Katie Britt on today. We've had a number of people saying, look, you see what Mitch McConnell's doing, saying this Ukraine thing's most important. It is time for not just for the Blake Masters and the J.D. Vances and the Eric Greitens and the Katie Britts to start winning. But once you're there needs to be a complete changeover and a new generation of leadership. What do you think about what happened with Rand Paul, where we stand with the $40 billion, and talk about the new right and this rising generation of leaders in the Senate?
Well, God bless Rand Paul, right? He's like the one guy that's standing up and calling this madness out. And all he wanted was some accountability, right? All he sought to introduce was this provision where you'd have an inspector general who can actually track where the $40 billion is going, right? Like, I think, you heard me yesterday, I think it's madness to be sending $40 billion to Ukraine. But what everybody can agree on is that if you do send money to Ukraine, maybe, just maybe, we should know where the hell it's going. We should be able to track it, right? But apparently nobody except Rand Paul is interested in that, which is really, really crazy. And so I agree with you, Steve. I'm so frustrated. The voters that I talk to in Arizona are so frustrated. We need new leadership. We just do. I can't be majority leader my first year. Obviously, that's not how it's going to go. But I'm frustrated with Leader McConnell, Senator McConnell. Like, it's not the most important thing. This is not. We got problems here at home, and I want leadership that understands that.
Let me ask you, we had Kat Kamek on from Florida, in Florida 3 outside of Gainesville, and she'd had this video where she's been to the border a number of times. She has relatives that are associated with the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol were sending her back pictures of formula for the illegal aliens coming across. And we're not demonizing the parents or the kids or anything like that. They're being welcomed by the Biden administration. I mean, this is a cooked deal, right? But you had formula there. And, Navarre, we were talking last hour, the people getting crushed in the United States are African-American and Hispanics that, because of their economic situation, having to work, can't get the schedule to breastfeed, they need the formula. Is this starting to impact out in Arizona? Are you seeing this now, and are people getting fed up with this?
Oh, people are so mad. People are so mad. We're sick and tired of the Biden administration. And, there's kind of a bipartisan establishment, right, that's doing this too. They're treating Americans as less than. The Biden administration literally treats illegal aliens better than American citizens. They literally care more about Ukrainians than Americans. They literally care more about criminals than law-abiding Americans. This is just insane. It's America last all the way down, and that's why we're heading for this red wave, God willing, in November. We're going to take this country back and put America first.
Blake, real quickly, how do people follow you on social media and how do they find the campaign? We recommend everybody get to these campaign stops, go meet the people personally, ask your questions, do your full vetting and due diligence. Blake, how do they find out what you're up to? What's the campaign site?
Thank you. Yeah, go to blakemasters.com. We've got the campaign calendar with all the events up there. We're doing grassroots events every day. So if you're in Arizona, stop by, check one out, blakemasters.com.
Blake Masters, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Out in Arizona, the great MAGA state. Hey, Boris, right there, you got another no. You know, Katie Britt did the essay. We got Greitens, you got JD, you got all the new fresh faces, right? Are saying there's zero chance in this $40 billion. And we want people focused on home. That's all the same mantra. It's America last. People are tired of it. They're tired of illegal aliens getting ahead of them, Ukrainians getting ahead of them. And America is the most giving nation on earth. It's not that we're being selfish. You got to take care of the problems here. Boris, before I let you go, because I know you're not going to be here for the Saturday show, walk me through North Carolina. We got
Steve. Before we do that, I want to
very important.
Real quick.
Yep. Go ahead.
On Arizona, this just came out, just broke. I have no idea how this became public, but a poll conducted in Arizona in the last 10 days shows a tie between Brnovich, Lehman, and the one and only Blake Masters, who I'm supporting. Okay, and this is after polling had Brnovich up by a lot, and then Lehman was up by 10. Now it's a tie. It's literally they're all at 19. This is a big deal. This just
That's
broke.
Huge.
And I'm getting it right now to Memphis if they can get it up. But this is big news.
Get it, Memphis, and get to Captain Bannon. I want to get it on all of our Getter and all of our platforms.
Here's what it shows.
So Blake Masters is pulled into a tie. Yep.
He's pulled it into a tie. It's actually he's statistically second. I'll give the numbers right now. It is Lehman at 19.5, Blake Masters at 19.3, and Brnovich at 19.1. This is a huge victory for Masters. Lehman has had like $5 million already up on TV and other ads. By the way, Lehman also run by Jeff Rowe, just like Josh Mandel and McCormick. So this is the anti-Trump faction there. Brnovich, who was up by like 15, 20, has completely evaporated in terms of his lead and is now fading. And Blake Masters is ascendant.
But this is the Jay Corman thing. With guys like Brnovich and Jay Corman, it was very simple. Guys, if you represent and get the job done, you guys could blow out of here. The reason Corman collapsed, and Jake's a nice guy, but the reason he collapsed, he didn't get it done on 3 November. And the same with Brnovich.
And he did more than Brnovich.
Reports and doing studies. Yes. And people are just tired of it. They want to get on real quickly. Only got a couple of minutes. Give me your shot on North Carolina. I know that state has not gotten, outside of Madison Cawthorn's videos, have not gotten a lot of focus on the Senate race down there.
The Senate race, this is unbelievable what has happened in Pennsylvania, in North Carolina on the race there. Effectively, we had Ted Budd, who, people thought that endorsement may not end up going the way it should have. After a while, and I'm pulling up the poll here, and then Ted Budd got into the lead after the president went and had a rally in North Carolina. Right now, he's up by what appears to be almost 30 points, and the lead is growing and growing and growing. Budd is at 43, and McCrory at 16. So Budd's up by 27, almost 30 points. So that race is over and done with. Call it now. You've got Ted Budd. It's going to be, and hey, but MAGA's got to show up. You all got to show up. Don't stay home. Show up. Vote, vote, vote. As long as MAGA does what it's got to do, Ted Budd's going to win. It's going to be another major victory for MAGA Kingmaker, President Donald J. Trump.
Okay. Give your coordinates right now because you're out till tomorrow night. So give your coordinates.
BorisCP.com is the website. Sign up right now. Bring some heat. BorisCP.com is the website. Hot on Getter at BorisCP. On Twitter at BorisCP. Truth Social at Boris. Of course, the hottest on the gram, Boris_Ephsteyn on the gram. Stay strong. God bless. And Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're going to be back here. It's going to be live. And all I can tell you, it's going to be white hot. This is going to be, you got Pennsylvania, you've got this situation in North Carolina, a bunch of House races are going to be all over. You're going to be hearing from the candidates. We're going to talk about polls, strategy, and we're going to make sure we get a lot of feedback from you out there in the audience. People are all over. So make sure you stay on Getter tonight. My personal account's up on Getter. And if you want to see what I'm thinking, the analytics we're doing, we're going to put that up there. Captain Bannon's there. Boris is there. Peter Navarro, Jason Miller, the entire crew, and Posse. Raheem's up there. They're putting up stuff nonstop. So tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, be back here. It's going to be game day on Tuesday, and we're really starting. We're going to also be talking to John Fredericks and the guys down there in Georgia. This thing is getting heated up. Mike Pence has just announced he's going to be down in Georgia campaigning against President Trump's preferred candidate. So all I can tell you is strap in. We'll see you back here 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Check me out overnight on Getter. I want to thank Memphis, the team here, everybody. See you tomorrow morning at 10.